Have you ever argued with someone and walked away unsure of what just happened? You had facts. You had clarity. But now, you're questioning your memory, your sanity, even your identity. That's not confusion. That's gaslighting, the silent, insidious tactic that bends reality one doubt at a time. In this episode of Unmask, we confront the manipulator whose weapon is not a fist, but your own mind. We step into the world of the gaslighter, where truth becomes blurry and power is maintained through illusion. From ancient philosophy to modern trauma psychology, we'll peel back the layers of this deeply toxic behavior. Because understanding is the first act of rebellion. And once you see the pattern, you can never unsee it. Man is not disturbed by things, but by the view he takes of them. Epictetus, the Stoics, with unnerving clarity, believed that our suffering is not caused by events themselves, but by the interpretations we assign to them. They were right. But what if someone manipulates that interpretation? What if the lens through which we see the world has been replaced, twisted, not by trauma or chance, but by design? Welcome to the world of the gaslighter. He doesn't break bones. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't even need to lie, at least not obviously. Instead, he makes you lie to yourself. Gaslighting isn't just a tactic. It's a slow, surgical operation on reality itself. One where your perception, your memory, even your identity becomes unstable. And that instability, that's not a side effect. That's the goal. In a world where truth is the last anchor we cling to in chaos, the gaslighter becomes the storm, and the hand pretending to rescue you from it. Let me tell you a story. There once was a girl named Anna. She was strong, intuitive, and clever, until she wasn't. After 2 years with a man who never once raised his hand, Anna couldn't recognize herself in the mirror. She laughed less. She apologized constantly. She double-checked everything she said, and still felt wrong. And the terrifying part, he never yelled. He never called her names. He just made suggestions. Are you sure that happened? I think you're being too sensitive. Everyone agrees with me. You're the only one who sees it this way. Bit by bit, Anna's inner compass collapsed, and when she finally left, she wasn't angry. She was confused. Was it abuse, or was she just broken? Gaslighting is the dark art of rearranging your truth, one doubt at a time. And unlike overt cruelty, it hides behind charm, reason, even concern. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't push. It nudges. And when you fall, it asks why you're being dramatic. So, who is the gaslighter, and why do they do this? Psychologically, gaslighting is often a defense mechanism for individuals who cannot tolerate accountability or vulnerability. To a gaslighter, being wrong equals being unworthy. Instead of facing shame, they externalize it, turning it into your problem. According to psychiatrist Dr. Robin Stern, who coined the term gaslight tango, this dance only works when the gaslighter finds someone willing to believe the distortion. Gaslighters tend to be highly controlling, avoidant of shame, charismatic, even seductive, intellectually manipulative, often diagnosed or exhibiting traits of narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. But not all gaslighters are malicious masterminds. Some are wounded people replaying the scripts they learned as children, scripts that taught them domination is survival and vulnerability is danger. To gaslighters, control equals safety, winning equals self-worth. Distorting the truth equals avoiding emotional annihilation. It's not just pathological, it's psychological self-defense gone toxic. But the effect on the victim? Devastating. The subtle tactics they use: trivialization. It's not a big deal. Why are you so emotional? Result: you learn to distrust your own feelings. Countering: you're remembering that wrong. Result: memory becomes fragile. You doubt your own mind. Withholding: I don't want to talk about this again. Result: silence becomes dominance. Diversion: why are we even talking about this when you did X last week? Result: blame is always yours. You become the problem. Projection: they accuse you of manipulation, the very thing they're doing. Result: you feel guilty of defending yourself. It's not always calculated, but it's always destructive, because over time the narrative changes. Not the story of what happened, but the story of who you are. You're no longer confident. You're too emotional. You're always starting drama. You're remembering it wrong. Eventually, you apologize for being abused. If you've been gaslit, here's what life might feel like. You over-explain yourself, constantly trying to justify your feelings. You second-guess your memory, even when facts are clear. You say, "I'm sorry," too often, and mean it, even when it's not your fault. You feel like you're walking on eggshells, even during calm conversations. You experience chronic confusion and can't name why. You isolate not because you want to, but because you don't trust your own judgment anymore. Gaslighting doesn't just attack your present, it rewrites your past, so you can't even rely on it for clarity. It turns the world into a fog. Personal story. A man named Luis once said, "I left the relationship, but I couldn't leave the voice in my head." His partner never shouted, never hit. But over years, she planted doubts about what he remembered, about what he believed, about what he deserved. Now, even in freedom, he second-guesses decisions. He rereads texts 5 times before sending them. He says, "Maybe I'm overreacting," before sharing a feeling. Gaslighting doesn't end when the relationship does. It lives on in the mind. The internal symptoms: identity erosion. You don't know what you want anymore. Decision paralysis. Even simple choices feel unsafe. Hypervigilance. You scan for emotional landmines constantly. Depersonalization. You feel numb, detached, unreal. It's trauma, but invisible. You don't bleed from gaslighting. You vanish quietly. Let's take a moment to return to Plato's allegory of the cave. In it, people are chained inside a dark cave, watching shadows on the wall, believing them to be reality. They've never seen the sun, never touched truth, only the projection of truth. Now imagine, the gaslighter isn't just the puppet master. He's also convincing you the cave is safe, the sun is dangerous, and your eyes can't be trusted. Gaslighting is a modern cave. You live inside it, not physically, but psychologically. The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance. It is the illusion of knowledge. Stephen Hawking. Gaslighting thrives not by erasing knowledge, but by replacing it with illusion. It builds false certainty that erodes your inner wisdom. And so you begin to trust them more than yourself. That's the goal. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. George Orwell, 1984. This isn't just fiction. Orwell captured the gaslighter's blueprint. If I can make you doubt your memory, I can reshape your reality. If I can distort the present, I can rewrite the past. And if I control both, I control you. So, how do we fight back? First, name it. Awareness is power. When you recognize the signs, you begin to break the spell. Second, anchor in reality. Keep a journal. Document events. Talk to people who validate you, not your wounds. Third, rebuild your inner compass. This is the long road. But with therapy, support, and truth-telling, the fog lifts. And most importantly, know this. If someone constantly makes you doubt yourself, that's not love, that's control. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt. But what gaslighting does is trick you into giving that consent. You don't need to scream. You don't need to fight. You only need to see. The moment you do, the illusion cracks. And truth, even painful truth, will always set you free. If this episode resonated, if you've ever felt like you were losing your mind in someone else's story, you're not alone. Gaslighting isn't your fault, and your clarity isn't gone. It was stolen. It's time to take it back. Subscribe to Unmask for more cinematic deep dives into the psychology of manipulation, identity, and freedom. In our next episode, we meet a figure even more elusive. They don't confront you. They just bleed you slowly. Don't miss it.